Good morning and welcome to yet another Focus edition, this time around focusing on CSI, CSR in Namibia. Of course, we do hope to leave you enlightened at the end of the broadcast. I am your host, Glenn Rashipura, and I'll be keeping you company for the next half hour. We'll be right back after this. Now, Khone, I think earlier I was so rude. I didn't even introduce you to the viewers. I am joined in studio by Khone Tlacha, one of the people that was responsible for this edition of the Focus, the CSI, CSR. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Glenora, and good morning to the viewers.
Yes. Could we talk about the CSI, CSR Focus? It came out today. It obviously looks very beautiful as always. You guys always do a good job.
Thank you.
You are part of the editorial team. And for most people, I also didn't know what CSI, CSR is till I started working on the Focus show, and then I learned what those terms means. But most people don't know what CSI and CSR mean. What is that? What does that mean?
Okay, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain. So broadly, or just breaking it down, CSR, corporate social responsibility, CSI, corporate social investment, it's two different legs. So want to look at it on the responsibility side first and break down that leg. You'd find oftentimes corporates, not even just corporates but institutions in general, would have projects they undertake, they generate a bit of profit, make some money, and obviously there's a need, social need, to channel this money through to communities, through to programs, and so on. And on the other side, we have corporate social investment, where you, again, the same instance, you've made money, or you are making money, but you also tend to want to invest it back into the community through activities centered around perhaps employee training, my apologies, or you'd be giving out bursaries, or so it just sort of looks at it's essentially just giving back to the community in a broader sense.
I think I'm still quite confused between the difference. Corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment. One, a responsibility, what does that mean? Like a corporate social responsibility, it means when the private sector, whatever company that be, makes a certain amount of profit, they have a responsibility to give back to the community around the company. And social investment is more in, it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with profits or what is brought in and out of the company, but more just the undertaking of the company itself to uplift the community around them.
Definitely,
is that correct?
Yes. So in the one instance, for example, if we talk about corporate social responsibility, say we are a mining company based in the Irongo region, for argument's sake, we'd look at it and say, well, we mine in the Okomba area, or we mine in the Daures area, so why not take X amount, because we've been able to make something here, why not take X amount, either build a clinic for the community to ensure that the health of the community is being taken care of, or build a classroom, or build a library. And in that way, you know, you are being a what they would say, a responsible corporate citizen, because you are plowing back into the community. Whereas when we now, going back to your question, if we were going to talk about CSI, corporate social investment, again, using the same similar situation, such as education, I'll use that again. And then we say, well, we mine in this area. We'd like for people who are from this area to one day work in these mines and have the requisite skills to be able to contribute to the well-being of the mine and the running of the mine. So then we say, well, we've identified, or we'd like for 5 students who may potentially go to university to participate in our bursary scheme. We send them off to university, we empower them, and throughout their years of study, they constantly come back to the mine, do some practical training, and not just do the training, but paired with that training, you know, they are paid a stipend or an allowance that would, and it's just part of your obligation or responsibility to invest in those individuals who then would one day come from that community, but are also able to not just contribute to the mine, but also build the broader community.
Coming back to the focus, and thank you for that, you know, distinction, so that people can understand that it's similar, but there's also differences in there. Coming back to the focus edition, this one, you guys did decide to, you know, focus on the CSI, CSR, you know, dynamic or aspect. Why was that so important to have these as the focus for this focus edition? So
I think companies do exceptionally good work within the communities, and there's a perception that they do not plow back, they do not give back, they do not invest back into the communities that they come from. And look at the issue of for example, the banking stuff, where you would say, well, X amount of bank has made $1 billion. There's always this argument that these people are only here to make money, but little do we know what they do put back into the community. So for example, we could make the example that to say, for a bank, probably for every $10 made, 50 cents has gone into empowering a community, has gone into empowering somebody. If you have to take the quantum now, or the total, and you say you've got 100 million in profit, for example, and for the layperson it would seem insignificant, but out of that 100 million, out of every $10 in that 100 million, 10 cents, and if you accumulate this, and it seems like a low amount, but I'm just using it off the top of my head. You accumulate this, and suddenly you're sitting with something like probably $1 million. That $1 million could have gone into a school feeding scheme, it could have gone into libraries, it could have gone into buying medical equipment for a clinic or a hospital, or it could have gone into acquiring medicine. So at the end of the day, there is that positive spin-off that is being created in the communities, but because these matters are not being reported on, it's sort of out of the eye of the public. And one would like to believe that it's a bit unfair not to celebrate corporates or Namibia's corporate citizens for the good work that they do in the country.
Okay, so this is just basically just to highlight what's actually being done in terms of corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment. And I have to say, you guys did put a very wonderful focus. You get to see even what the CSR and CSI are, what the definitions are, and what companies are also doing in that aspect. Why is corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment very crucial or important for the economy?
Again, comes back to this issue of what I stated, is that, you know, you are able to plow back and play your part as a good corporate citizen, but also government, we cannot expect it on government to go it alone. You would have, government has X amount of budget available, but this money has to be spent on the country's operational needs. So you would have a situation where ministry, for example, Ministry of Education, which I believe is the biggest employer in the country, has so many teachers that they need to pay, so many support staff that needs to be paid. But out of that, so little is left for development. So little of that is left to pay to build schools, to build libraries, to build laboratories for schools, to acquire books. And with this leg, you as a corporate citizen is also able to say, well, I need to do my part in shaping and building Namibia, and if I have money available, why not put it put it back into the country for the good use and for the benefit of all Namibians? And there is this relation. It's very important that this relation exists. Yes, government is there and government should take care of us. Arguably, I pay tax, you pay tax, but our tax monies can only go so far, and to that extent, so corporate social responsibility, corporate social investment helps entities plug that gap and just fill that gap and ensure that it's not up to government alone to drive Namibia's development agenda, but that we've all got a part to play as corporate citizens, as individuals, of course, me and you, and just to ensure that we can build this Namibian house.
All right, I think we have quite a few more questions and we will tackle that on the other side of the break. Now, Ohane, another thing that I like about the corporate social responsibility is also putting companies, I want to say, making them responsible and also giving them policies and adherence, so that, let's say there's a mining company, how ethical are they? So that is part of the corporate social responsibility, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. So are they getting the, because I think, especially now that we're talking about mines, but for instance, you have a responsibility as a mine to make sure that the environment that you're mining in is left better off once you are done mining. Which is a great way to say you're giving back also to the community, because you're also being very ethical, would you say?
Yes, no, definitely. So, I'm going to expand this conversation beyond mining. Starting off with mining, let's say you've got a piece of land, you have mined off that and you've depleted the resource. At the end of the day, it's incumbent and it's important that you restore that land that you had to as much as nearly to its original status as you could possibly do. And you know, such initiatives are very important because you ensure that now you're taking care of the fauna and flora that you found there. Also, I think another aspect is around, let's say, beverages, or let's say the alcohol industry. I've often noticed a lot that there's an obligation to say, well, we know that people are going to consume alcohol, but we'd also want to make sure that people know what amounts of alcohol is safe to consume and what the potential dangers behind alcohol is. Bring the conversation back to the tobacco industry. And
yes, I was about to ask. Yeah,
you would see a packet of cigarettes would have "do not smoke, smoking causes cancer," and all of these things.
Yes.
And as ugly as those pictures may be, there's also they also tell a very important story to just educate the men on the street to ensure that yes, we know that you're smoking, but please be aware that in as much as you're smoking or consuming X amount of this product, just know that for every action there is a reaction.
Yes, and these are the potential consequences of excessive indulgence in the product. That I've seen them quite a lot of times. I don't smoke, but I have seen the horrific pictures on cigarette boxes and whatnot. And that, you said, goes into the corporate social responsibility. So what we are saying technically is that as much as you're on the road as a citizen, a human being, you have a responsibility to be careful for the next person. So
Of
this
course.
is just extended in terms of the corporate world.
Yes, of course.
Coming back to the investment aspect, you talked earlier on like how the private sector or the corporate world could assist the government in taking care of the economy. How important is it that these two sectors have conversations about the investments? Because let's say, like you were mentioning now, like education, for instance, might need a lot more funding than another sector. And how do we make sure that the resources are allocated proportionally? For instance, maybe two companies are trying to invest in, let's say, education, but one could actually, divert their resources into something else. Do you think it's important that the private sector, the government, all these players come together and have dialogues around investment, just to make sure that the resources are allocated proportionally? Definitely.
I think there's a big need for dialogue to occur, because you do not want duplication to occur. You'd probably place your effort too much on education, let's say basic education, for example, and you forget that there are other aspects that also need to be funded by government or by private sector, and where private sector can play a bigger role. Not just government to business, but business to business, as business need to speak to one another in terms of, okay, we are the four major banks. This is our X amount of budgets. Okay, you guys take education. We're going to take health. You guys take this, and we take that. And we, as a group, lobby government and speak to government in terms of how best we can help Namibia reach its development agendas. But also, obviously, on the part of government, also important to state their most pressing needs, and just to put it out there to show where the biggest funding gaps are, and what would be required to ensure that these are met.
Would you say Namibia is having these conversations, or there is a gap that we should fill in terms of like, is the private sector coming together, and figuring out how best to assist the economy, or is it a thing that we need to work ourselves towards?
I would like to turn my attention to the whole HIV/AIDS issue, and Ministry of Health, or Namibia at least, is meeting the 95 standards, where 95% of the people who know they've been diagnosed with HIV are taking their medication and so on. So you would find that there's a lot of support that has gone into that program, and support from other governmental, non-governmental organizations. Most controversial recently now, of course, is USAID, with all of these funding cuts and so on. You've got the Walfish Bay Corridor, or rather, let me not mention corporates, but we've got all of these players coming together, NGOs, corporates, and the ministry as the anchor, where you say, well, Namibia has been able to achieve all of these health milestones because there has been funding, but there's also been deliberate effort on the part of some corporates to ensure that they go out of their way and do mobile clinics, they do testing, they're able to provide all of these services, just to give a complementary role to the Ministry of Health, who is the custodian. And just mentioning this as one. But obviously, with all things in life, there's always room for improvement, and these conversations need to be held. These conversations do take place, and I'm sure there's still a long way to go in terms of helping government meet its developmental agenda.
Thank you for shedding light on that. We will, on the other side of the break, try to get into one or two articles from this Focus edition, Focus CSI, CSR. We'll be right back. we did promise that we will take a look at some of the content on this Focus edition. One article that stood out for me was the Alexander Forbes Namibia, which is recognized as a top employer for 2025. And this is for the third consecutive year. So kudos to them for, having achieved such a great milestone, I would say. Yes. So what's your take on this?
Okay. Firstly, before I go into it, I also want to congratulate the company. 3 years in a row, that is quite a mean streak. So we've spoken about CSI, so corporate social investment, and this speaks around the company's attempts to not only build a very good working environment, but also to empower its employees.
Yes.
Yes, the company is empowering its employees, for its own benefit. But let's look at the bigger picture here. Alex Forbes in the financial services sector could be aiding in helping Namibia have more actuaries, have more accountants and so on that are skilled and able to help drive our economy and deepen. So on the skill set, that really does a lot for Namibia and helps build the skill set that we need as a developing country to build our country and to take it forward. So it's actually sort of a double victory in which the company is able to grow its staff skills, but these skills can also help driving Namibia's development in terms of the work that can be done here and the activities that the company can go into and sort of just generate more work and more spin-offs.
Yeah, like I would like to just add on to that, based off the article, they're saying being a top employer means meeting the highest standards in employee experience, talent development and workplace culture. Alexander Forbes, Namibia's flexible work model not only enhances employee well-being, but also enables collaboration, productivity and a strong client focus. So yes, as much as it's plowing back into the company, it also goes out. It spills over to the country and the economy in the long run. Now, in another article, which I really like that you guys included this, you guys highlighted corporate funders, government and non-profit grant providers. So there's a lot of CSI, CSR that are out there in terms of grants, and you guys included a whole page on this where you can look at if you want to get a funding from Bank Venture or whichever. So there's quite a few here that you guys has highlighted, and I like that. Why was it so important to include this in this Focus edition?
So say for example I have a need to fund a health project, I would automatically think Ministry of Health, but in that I would not know that there are pharmaceutical companies or a mining company or electricity company that could actually also help finance that need, just in terms of the projects or that they undertake.
Thank you so much. Now, that's all the time that we have for you, but of course, we will obviously be talking after the camera stop rolling. For the viewers out there, where can they find this beautiful Focus edition?
The CSR Focus has come out in all 3 dailies, in Algemeine Zeitung, Republikein, as well as Namibian Sun. It is as an insert. So if you've been lucky enough to grab a copy, or if you still want to, if you're still keen and have not grabbed a copy, it's in all 3 daily newspapers that have been published or that came out today. So please get the newspapers and get the Focus edition, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Ohome. From me, Glenn Arashipura, I hope to have left you a little bit more and enlightened. Until next time.